firsts, and we're going to have a look at some of those. The first by-election of this parliament, and it's a win for Reform, a party that barely scratched the surface in the general election in this seat, now taking the seat by a majority of 6, the slimmest of margins. Let's go straight over here to look at what changed in order to give Reform that advantage. You can see the Reform vote going up 20 percentage points. Labour, really the biggest victim today. They're down 14%. The Conservatives down 8 as well. This, and we're going to see a lot of this pattern over the next 24 hours, I think, is really the story of the election. Labour down, in fact, more than the Tories at the hands of Reform. And I think that's a big deal. The narrowest.
Britain is straining at the seams, and after Nigel Farage's Reform UK delivered a shockwave in the 2025 local elections, even King Charles III appears unable to ignore the tremor. Keir Starmer responded not with reassurance, but with force, rolling out a sweeping clampdown that has only poured fuel on an already raging fire. Instead of calming the country, the government tightened its grip on farmers, demonstrators, and everyday citizens bold enough to question Labour Party direction. The surge of arrests has left the public reeling, deepening divisions and casting a long, uneasy shadow over the state of British democracy.
I'm outside the Runcorn and Helsby by-election count hall, where we just saw Sarah Pochin win a historic victory over Labour's Karen Shaw. It's been held by Labour for more than 40 years, and she overturned a majority of 15,000 votes.
The people of Runcorn and Helsby have spoken. Enough is enough. Enough Tory failure. Enough Labour lies.
Inside Buckingham Palace, tensions are reportedly boiling over, with insiders claiming King Charles III was deeply angered after learning that peaceful demonstrators, including farmers and concerned voters, were being escorted away from meetings and rallies simply for voicing dissent. At the heart of the storm sits a controversial inheritance tax targeting agricultural land, a policy many families view as a direct threat to farms built and sustained across generations. Facing the prospect of financial collapse, rural communities didn't stay silent. Tractors lined the roads, markets shut their gates, and open fields transformed into protest grounds as thousands demanded to be heard. Yet Keir Starmer answered the backlash with enforcement rather than engagement, deploying police units to dismantle demonstrations. More than 300 arrests followed, with reports suggesting many detainees remain without formal charges, igniting fierce debate online as stark images of elderly farmers, parents, and working-class youths in handcuffs circulated nationwide. The frustration has spilled far beyond the countryside. It has become a national reckoning, and farmers are no longer the only ones feeling the strain.
Because it's a first-past-the-post system, winning one candidate by only 6 votes out of some 20,000. Extraordinary stuff, Myron. Tell us, how's it feeling like to be in Britain to have a proper Conservative Party back again?
Yeah, well, this is an amazing time because, yes, these were just local elections, but in reality, these elections have ushered in a whole new political landscape that probably only happens once in a century, because the first-past-the-post system, as you mentioned, has been well and truly broken. When Nigel came back in July last year during the general election, he said he would just make a bridgehead into Parliament. So the first crack of that first-past-the-post system, which locks in Labour and the Conservatives, was made in July. And then as he progressed and during making arenas, filling up arenas with thousands of people and campaigning across the country, the accusation was Reform is just a protest party. It's something that is celebratory, yes, but full of razzmatazz, but nothing really of substance. So the real test came in these local elections where the polling had to translate into actual votes. And that is what has happened. And it's been an absolute bloodbath for the opposition party. Reform got 670 odd councillors elected, 10 local councils come under their control, plus this by-election, a parliamentary by-election, as you said, won by 6 votes, which was previously lost by 15,000 votes.
Across the country, ordinary voters who pressed Labour MPs over rising taxes, reduced benefits, and relentless energy bills are reportedly being ushered out of town halls and detained under sweeping new security rules, a move critics say signals a government short on answers and heavy on control. And if the murmurs drifting from Buckingham Palace are to be believed, King Charles III may be nearing his limit. Insiders claim the typically measured monarch was visibly angered after viewing footage of a disabled veteran being forcefully restrained during a protest in Yorkshire, later confronting senior advisors behind closed doors and declaring this was not the Britain his mother had left behind, but a nation edging towards something far more rigid and unsettling. Shortly afterward, in a private call with Keir Starmer, the king is said to have delivered a direct and unmistakable warning, one that suggests the pressure at the very top of the state is no longer easy to contain. The patience of both the public and the crown is wearing perilously thin, and when even King Charles III appears compelled to raise concern, it signals just how close Britain may be to a tipping point. Yet Keir Starmer shows no sign of easing the strain. Instead of cooling tensions, he is doubling down, tightening protest regulations, widening digital oversight, and floating new boundaries around political expression. Critics insist this isn't about security, but about control, aimed squarely at muting dissent and countering the rapid ascent of Nigel Farage and the surging momentum of Reform UK, whose growth has clearly rattled the establishment. But this may prove a grave misread. This is not the Britain of decades past. The electorate is alert, connected, and increasingly defiant. With Reform UK's dramatic rise, millions feel politically reawakened, and they are no longer prepared to sit quietly on the sidelines. Many voters now say they see straight through what they regard as the hollow choreography of a two-party system that has grown distant and defensive when challenged. The surge of Reform UK across 10 local councils, including the shock result in Runcorn and Helsby, where both Labour and the Conservatives were pushed aside, didn't feel random, it felt deliberate, a signal that a significant block of the electorate is demanding a new course. Labour's reaction has only intensified scrutiny. A movement that once anchored its identity to working people now faces accusations from critics of drifting away from them, as backlash mounts over benefit reductions, higher taxes on modest earners, and limited relief for families already stretched thin. The energy debate has added more fuel to the fire, with opponents branding current policy an overzealous green drive that has squeezed domestic oil and gas output while bills climb, industries strain, and households brace anxiously for winter without clear reassurance in sight. When everyday citizens take to the streets, they say they're dismissed as agitators. When farmers defend land that's been in their families for generations, they feel treated like suspects instead of stakeholders, and when anyone questions policy, they're swiftly branded far-right, a label critics argue has become a lazy shield against real debate. Many voters insist they can see the pattern. Keir Starmer may think each tougher measure strengthens his hold, but opponents contend that every crackdown, every perceived overreach, and every arrest only exposes how precarious that grip truly is. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is capitalizing on the moment. From outside Parliament, he delivered a blistering address that echoed far beyond the steps, denouncing the detention of peaceful farmers and voters as a blemish on British democracy, and vowing that Reform UK would bring an end to what he called mounting disorder. His message was sharp and unapologetic: restore the public's voice and dismantle what he portrays as the entrenched political machine Labour has built around itself. That message is racing through rural villages, factory towns, and among wage earners and small business owners, and support for Reform UK isn't just climbing, it's gaining speed. For many supporters, this has moved beyond left versus right. It's about survival and resisting a system they believe no longer speaks for them. At the same time, speculation surrounding King Charles III continues to intensify, with rumors suggesting he is weighing his constitutional boundaries carefully. Though the monarchy's formal authority is limited, even a measured public signal from the palace would ripple through Westminster and heap serious pressure on Keir Starmer. History shows governments cannot rely on fear or force forever. Detaining farmers, sidelining pensioners, or narrowing space for dissent does not secure durable trust. Starmer may have viewed Labour's election win as a broad mandate, but he now governs under relentless national scrutiny, each decision dissected by a public that appears increasingly restless. The fractures in his leadership, critics argue, are no longer hairline. They are spreading in plain sight. The frustration that once simmered beneath the surface is now impossible to ignore, and many sense a decisive turning point ahead. The real question is not just whether Keir Starmer will confront that line, but what shape Britain will take if he steps beyond it. In her victory address, Andrea Jenkyns pulled no punches, accusing her opponents of waging a calculated smear campaign built on personal attacks and underhanded tactics. She alleged that political rivals leaned on authorities to disrupt her efforts and circulated damaging rumors about her private life, which she firmly rejected, making it clear she has no intention of retreating. Jenkins also fired back at a challenger who questioned her local ties, highlighting what she described as the irony of someone with a South African accent casting doubt on her roots. Long regarded as an assertive voice on the conservative right, she signaled a sharper edge still, denouncing the government's immigration approach and condemning the use of taxpayer funds to house migrants in hotels, framing it as proof of a leadership class she argues has lost touch with the public it serves. She proposed instead the creation of temporary accommodation sites modeled on the system used in France, presenting it as what she called a more durable and cost-effective alternative. In her new post, Andrea Jenkins will command a £24 million budget and oversee major portfolios including transport strategy, vocational training, and regional economic growth for an area of roughly 4 million residents. Witnesses described her victory speech as so commanding that rival candidates stepped away from the stage, leaving her alone at the microphone to close with a defiant flourish before a stunned crowd. Meanwhile, in Doncaster, Mayor Rose Jones clung to office by fewer than 700 votes, and used the razor-thin margin to issue a pointed warning to Labour's national leadership, accusing them of losing touch with everyday realities. She openly challenged proposed changes to winter heating support, opposed increases in employer national insurance contributions, and criticized welfare reductions, arguing that such measures are squeezing working households to the limit, adding that she has already redirected local funds to shield vulnerable residents from facing the cold alone this winter. Rose Jones also sounded the alarm that rising national insurance costs are pushing small businesses to the edge, while tighter restrictions on independent support services are leaving families vulnerable. Her message was unmistakable: if Labour doesn't rebuild ties with the communities it claims to serve, the political backlash will only intensify. This speech was more than a victory, it was a warning shot. Meanwhile, even as Reform UK gains momentum nationwide, Labour narrowly held a key prize in the West of England mayoral race. The contest had been expected to be tight, particularly with the Green Party's growing influence in the region, but the real shock came as Reform UK, not the Greens, surged into second place, signalling a major political shift in what had long been a left-leaning stronghold. Representing Reform UK was Aaron Banks, the controversial figure behind the Brexit campaign, who captured 45,252 votes, trailing Labour's Helen Godwin, who secured 51,197. On the surface, Labour's slim victory offered a sense of relief, but the underlying currents hinted at far deeper challenges ahead. Beneath the surface, the political landscape was clearly shifting. Reform UK outperforming the Greens and pushing Labour to the wire revealed a growing public appetite for change, even in areas long considered left-leaning strongholds. For Reform UK supporters, it wasn't just a strong showing, it was proof that the country's political centre of gravity is moving fast. Meanwhile, in Lincolnshire, Andrea Jenkins celebrated a local victory while projecting a larger vision, calling the outcome a breakthrough, and framing Lincolnshire as the launchpad for Reform UK's ambitions in the next general election. Her message was unmistakable: she aims to dismantle what she sees as an overgrown, inefficient state, and replace it with a streamlined government designed to serve the public more effectively.